Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hurdle the Line. It is episode 66. I can't believe it's been just shy of a year since we first released our first episode. I think I need to get the date out very, very soon. But it's just been just shy of a year since we released our first ever episode. Very, very exciting times. And yeah, just a lot of reflection. To join me though this week for episode 66 is the one and only Tom Craft. How are we, sir?
Very good, thank you.
We love to hear it. And joining us back on Heard of the Line for the first time since I believe before the Super Bowl, we have Sam the Ram. How are we, sir?
Yeah, all good, all good. Yeah, enjoying crazy trade time at the moment.
Definitely.
Exact. Well, this is where we need to start. This has been a hectic few days. It's been a hectic couple of weeks. In today, so right, I've had to explain to a few people this week. At the weekend just gone, the US clocks went forward. The US are in daylight savings time.
Yes.
This means we are now we our clocks don't go forward until the night of the 29th, morning of the 30th. So for the next 3 weeks, we are only 4 hours ahead of Eastern time. And if you watch the NBA, the NHL, any other American sports, my days, this is a beautiful 3 weeks. You get 1 extra hour of sleep for the
Funny they
next three
had it
weeks.
during the NFL season. That would be wonderful, but
Well, it is that there is
We
that
do get
one
for a
week.
teeny tiny bit, don't we?
So we do we
Like
do get
two
that one
weeks.
week where our clocks go back
mm,
the week before the US clocks go back. So
yeah,
there is that one week of the NFL season where we get 5 p.m. kickoffs on a Sunday and quarter past midnight. The quarter past midnight kickoffs are just the best. Um,
perfect.
you really feel that extra hour when you normally get 2 hours and you get three instead. You really feel it. But it is crazy time in the NFL as today. Let's say you just the time. I'm going to give the timings, but if they don't sound right in GMT, this is why. Today at hang on, let me get the tweet up that I put out. Actually, I don't want to give off the cuff bad information. There we go. Uh, the negotiation period where clubs could contact players due to become unrestricted free agents in the next couple of days, those being cut by teams, those who are out of contract. That started today at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. That was 4 p.m. GMT, which was 5 hours ago at the point of recording. So teams could start contacting these potential UFAs 5 hours ago. The free agency and the new league year begins at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday the 12th. That'd be 8 p.m. GMT. So any trades that happen right now, any signings that happen right now, these are just these are unofficial. These will not come into effect until 8 p.m. on GMT on Wednesday. So just for everyone's benefit, but this is now the point where teams can start talking to players who are about to be out of contract with a team. Hence why today has been one of the most chaotic days and is always one of the most chaotic days in the NFL calendar. And the next week will be as teams can finally start going and speaking to free agents and players start officially being allowed to test the free agency market. Uh, before we get on to trades, before we get on to free agency, I'm going to say a lot of that is the news that's coming up. There are a couple of other pieces of news. There are players that have re-signed with teams. There are players that have signed extensions with teams. And I know for a fact we want to talk about a couple of these because these are big. Just some big ones have happened in the last couple of weeks. I know that we're all, so we'll go through them. I want to talk a little bit about the combine and just if you saw anything in the combine that you liked, if there's anything from the combine, because that was just over a week ago. We haven't had a chance to speak about that yet. And then we'll get into it. And then by Christmas time, we'll finish up the episode and hopefully, well, yeah. So just to run through a little bit of the news, Josh Allen has signed a 6-year, $330 million deal with the Buffalo Bills. That is going to be one hell of a wedding that he's about to throw after that payday. But fully deserved. It's got to be fully deserved. Tom, you can't shake him. He's going to be around for 6 more years. Will he get a ring out of this? Is he going to get a ring out of it?
Um, It's tough to say, really. All evidence points to the fact that he can't win the big game in the playoffs. But that's not. I don't think that's really on him. I think
Yeah.
it's more on just the Bills as a franchise not quite being able to get over the hump. But it gives them flexibility as well. I think he did have 2 years left on his current deal, I think.
Yeah.
But they didn't even want to wait that long. They were just like, no, let's do it. Let's do it now. I will wonder how much, cap flexibility it allows them now that he's signed to that. I know obviously they released Von Miller as well, yesterday, which was not surprising at all considering how much money he was due this year and then next year, and he's 35 years old and he's really just the corpse of Von Miller at this point. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see. I think that they will have a great chance. I think I would like to think that Josh Allen will make a Super Bowl in his career. Like I would like to see that, to be fair, but I just hope it's not next year.
So, do you reckon what fifth time lucky for the Bills franchise?
Yes.
It's got to be. You can't
I mean,
that part City can't take much
he's the
more.
best quarterback in franchise history, I think, already. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, I think as much as Jim Kelly was a great quarterback, what Josh Allen can do on a football field is just kind of insane.
absolutely agree. And by the way, just want to shout out, you've got Disney Plus, the documentary for the ESPN 30 for 30
Oh, that's a good show.
on
I
that
like that.
Bills for like the Bills team that went to the Super Bowl 4 times in a row and lost every single one. It's a brilliant documentary.
It's a great documentary.
It really is. In other news, Chris Godwin is staying in Tampa Bay. He signed a 3-year, $66 million deal with 44 million guaranteed. Sam, I'm going to come back to you for the next one as well, by the way. There's one straight after this, but I'm coming to you anyway. Mike Evans obviously will still be there. Chris Godwin is coming back. They've still got Baker Mayfield. The Bucks, we'll mention very soon, they're making some moves. They're a team to watch now in the NFC. They have to be. They're here to stay. As for
Yeah, I mean, with the Buccaneers at the moment are always one of those teams that, especially with the division that they're in, you always, I think you can always back them to be there or thereabouts in the playoffs because it, no matter as recently as no matter what the other teams seem to do, that it all just falls apart and then the NFC South just ends up being completely terrible. So I think it's if they can keep Godwin and Mike Evans fit and keep them on the field and healthy, then they'll just do what they've been doing every single year. They just need to start building up. I think they need to get a bit more protection um, for Baker. They need to, you know, make sure that he stays upright. He's not having to do too much like scattering about the place, and then maybe add a few pieces on defense. And the defense isn't bad. It can make mistakes. So if they can just shore it up at the back, and I think they're good enough to make the playoffs if they just keep it as it is. I think.
yeah. Um, these two names are actually one's at the top of the list, one's at the bottom, but I'm going to double down on him. From potentially not knowing what was going on in your quarterback room heading into the off season, you now know who your quarterback will be and who your backup will be. Matthew Stafford signed, restructured his deal. He had 2 years left on it, but I think was it only 24 million he was due. He was only due to make 24 million with like 17 million guaranteed over this season, and then next season he had nothing guaranteed left. He's managed to convert a lot of it. He's got fair bit more money out of it guaranteed. He will be staying in LA after he was given the green light to go and test the free agency, or his agent was, and see what was out there. And then today, this is Monday the 10th, the man himself, Jimmy G, is back in LA for a year. Um, Just it takes a lot of uncertainty. Does it take much uncertainty away from you going into the off season?
I think it settles the season already. I think the one thing you always don't want to go. This is the one position that I think you never want to be uncertain on going into a new season is whether you're going to have a quarterback or not. And I think the big difference this season is, and especially is the fact that I think the one player we were linked with signing when the whole Matt Stafford could be leaving was Aaron Rodgers, and my heart just fell out. I was just the thought of having to have Aaron Rodgers as a Ram and have to like back him just made me feel a little bit ill. So I kind of was glad that we were able to sort of get Stafford sorted. And I think you look at the quarterbacks that were available, he was always the best one. And I think to be able to let him go, the only way you were going to do it was to one of the teams who needed a quarterback and take their first. And that was never going to happen. And I think that as soon as we realized that the teams that were actually interested in him, bar the Steelers, you were looking at high picks, and I don't think teams are ever going to take that. So for, 36 is he now? 36,
Well, to be
37?
fair, you say that, Sam, but the Giants actually matched the offer that the Rams gave. They more or less done the deal, but then he decided he was like, "No way in hell am I going to that trash in New York. I'm staying in LA, where I won a Super Bowl, where I'm comfortable in the sunshine. Not going to New York." So
Doesn't have to move his kids about. They can enjoy the beach and
Boo.
like them having to deal with the crap life stadium.
yeah,
Sorry, you mentioned Matthew Stafford's kids. I'm alive, so we have to boo them. I apologize. It's just what we do in Detroit. Um,
No class, no class. Though to be fair, I did see a lot of Rams fans saying, "Can we just send Kelly Stafford off to the Giants instead?" Because I think, to be honest, she's more vocal when it comes to Matthew Stafford's career than he is, and it's
yeah,
just
she
ridiculous.
literally is. She's gotten
um,
hot water before as well. She
look,
she doesn't she doesn't keep her mouth shut.
we were
To be honest,
warning you
it's a
all
bit
for
like my home
years.
life.
Yeah,
We were
true.
we were warning you all for years. But because we were in Detroit and no one cared, no one listened, they went to LA, she had the LA market, and then all of a sudden everyone was just like, God, Kelly Stafford's a bit of a piece of work. And we go, come on. Um,
Yeah, but when she first started that with us, it was actually quite nice, and it was like it was a breath of fresh air because we were able to sort of get an insight into Matthew Stafford. But when things started to change, and she started to change, we were like, nah, no, we don't need that. But she is very much part of, she fits in well with the LA drama. So
um,
Definitely.
anyway, staying in LA for a second, Khalil Mack is returning to the Chargers 1 year, $18 million. And can I just give a huge shout out to the admin on the NFL social media pages who posted the "Don't say it, don't say it, don't say it" return of the Mac. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. We were all thinking it. The NFL said it. Well done, admin. You deserve a pay rise. Um, but again, that's a great signing for the Chargers. Khalil Mack is brilliant.
100%. He
Um,
deserves all that guaranteed money as well. He's getting 18
yes,
million guaranteed, isn't he? Right. So
yeah.
yeah. And he's already put together a Hall of Fame type career. So just continue it really.
yeah, they
Um,
needed they needed to keep one of them and Joey Bosa, and so they've gone
They
for
were
the
never going to keep Joey Bosa for
yeah.
25 million. Like
That was it.
the
I think that they've chosen the right player out of the two to keep.
Yeah. I mean, look
yeah.
how injured Joey Bosa's been over the last 3 seasons. Like he's barely played. He barely played last season.
So
Um.
I want to say, like, put a pin in that
Oh, okay.
because when we get onto free agency and stuff like that, we have a couple of notable free agents. He's one of them, and I've got something to say on him as well because
Okay.
heavily linked to Detroit, and I've got feelings. Um, JC Horn is
Oh
staying in
yes.
Carolina. That is a brilliant signing. He signed a 4 year, $100 million deal with 70 million guaranteed. For as much crap as the Carolina Panthers have been through over the last few years, it's nice to see that they're able to retain talent. Like JC Horn is one hell of a talent, and to be able to retain him is a great thing. Um,
He's one of the best
and it,
corners in the NFL, honestly. He really
absolute,
is. Like, I know people will say he might have some temperament issues, where he starts fighting people or whatever, but he's still, he's got that potential to be the best player, the best corner in the NFL. Like, he really is that good if you see him on his day.
the the best corner. I truly mean some of the best corners in the NFL are madmen. absolute madmen.
True.
Well, look at Jalen Ramsey. I mean, he's an absolute nut job.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
true.
So, to be at that level, I think you have to have a level of arrogance and ego to you to be able to, because you're dealing with some of the most arrogant people in the NFL in
You are.
terms of wide receivers. So,
Yeah,
Um,
true. Yeah, you do notice that with corners, they are quite confident in their ability. Like Jair Alexander is one of them. That's like he's so
look at Sauce. I mean,
overconfident,
Sauce is the exact same, isn't he?
CJ
literally.
Gardner-Johnson.
Oh yeah, he is the ultimate
Big,
trash talker,
biggest
man.
ego.
He
In
The
his,
safety.
he's the ultimate, and again, learnt this lesson. He's the ultimate. When he's on your team, you love him. Like he's the best thing ever. When he is not on your team, he is an absolute piece. Like you can't stand him. It's
He
crazy.
used
But
to
like,
cause fights with the Saints, didn't he? Because he would like
yeah,
the absolute chirp at all the other players for the opposing
was
team
it
when
was
they
it
kick it
was
off.
it Gardner was it Gardner Johnson who punched a player as well,
Yeah,
or got
yeah, that
got
punched?
was
punched. He
him.
got punched against the
He got
Bears.
punched. Yeah,
Um,
he got two
that was
things though,
wild.
didn't he? Someone punched him. He looked at him and punched him again.
And yeah, he's just go. But the thing again, right? Not to dwell on these, but it always makes me laugh though when players do start throwing hands when they've got helmets on, and it's like right, it's going to hurt
Yeah,
your hand more than it's going to hurt anyone.
Very true.
Else, it always just makes me laugh a little bit, thinking you've got to do more damage to yourself. Um, but no, I do think to be a genuinely very good cut, because you start off in a losing position. We're all aware of like if you're on the defense, you're kind of starting unless you're in the trenches where your whole job is just pure physicality. You're in the position you're always playing second guessing. You're always trying to understand. It's such a mentally tough. You've got to be so mentally tough, and it's like boxers. I always put like boxers and fighters and all that sort of stuff. To do that, to want to go into a ring or an octagon and want to physically hurt someone for so many and cause seriously, you've got to be a bit tapped in the head.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah,
got to
100%,
be a little
100%.
bit. And I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
quite saying that the that kind of level of, but to have that much belief to put yourself mentally in those positions, I'd be a little bit tapped.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Um,
I mean,
and
to be fair, I mean, I know we're going to come on to them, but the Panthers seem to have been doing some good transactions in the well,
yeah,
in this little market so far. So,
um,
um,
yeah, not to just sit here and rant away about how corners are madmen. Um, Next up, we have Jake Matthews stays in Atlanta with the Falcons. That's a 2-year, $45 million deal. I couldn't get it if it was all guaranteed or some of it was guaranteed. I didn't get that bit. Um,
Great signing.
Great signing, and that continues. The Falcons have always have had one of the better O lines in the league.
Yeah.
Retaining that talent is a huge thing, especially knowing you've got Michael Penix going into his second year. That's very important for them. The next couple, though, this is where it gets really fun with some of these extensions, some of these re-signs. We have three records broken. One of them was the same record broken twice. We'll start with the one that it remains after one break. Saquon Barkley stays in Philadelphia. That is a 2-year, $41 million deal. The highest paid running back in NFL history. The first running back to ever get paid more than $20 million in a year. The less
he
said, the
deserves
better.
he deserves it after
I
what he's
mean,
done for the
yeah,
mission.
I
He
don't think
deserves
there's
it.
anyone else in the NFL who deserves that contract more than Saquon after the season that he had.
Say no more. Say no more on
Do
that
you,
one.
do you reckon he could be the? He could get. I could see him being put forward to be put on the next Madden thing. So
Oh, that
I
would be
wouldn't. I,
good. I'd like
I
that.
wouldn't. I wouldn't draft him, just in case. We know that EA curse is always.
Ah, come on. But if it's Saquon Barkley, I feel like that would might break the curse.
Hmm.
We would say
With
said that
everyone
about
probably
Christian
thought that
McCaffrey.
about McCaffrey. Yeah.
True.
No, there's no way that EA can take Christian McCaffrey down week one.
Mahomes broke the curse though, because he won the
He
Super
did.
Bowl while he was on the cover.
He
He
did,
did.
but he was on there with Brady, so he got a bit of the Brady look.
Yeah, he got a bit of juju going there with Brady. Um, the Then we had a record-breaking deal. The Raiders defensive end Max Crosby put to bed all doubts about whether he was going to stay in Vegas or not. He signed a 3-year, $106.5 million deal with $91.5 million guaranteed, making him at the time. the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. And at the time, fully deserved. The Raiders needed, if they wanted to keep him in, they always knew what they needed to do. Pay
Yeah.
the man.
I mean, for someone who's, in the same division as this guy, or supports the team in, the same division as Max Crosby, he's an absolute wrecking machine. Like he's so good. I'm surprised he stayed in Vegas just because there's a lot of murmurs that he had like during the season, even after the season where he's like, I want to go to a contender, a team that's actually going to compete for championships. And I don't think the Raiders are doing that right now. Um, but at the end of the day, he's staying, he gets the bag. And as he said at the time, until it got surpassed, it was the richest non QB NFL in NFL history. So yeah,
How
I think
much? Sorry, go on,
I was
Tom.
going to say, I think it's a great deal for the Raiders. It's a bad deal for Max Crosby, I personally think. Apart from
yeah,
obviously getting the money from a footballing perspective, I just think it seems like such an odd decision. But when someone's going to throw 91.5 million guaranteed money in your face, are you going to turn it down?
don't really turn it down, do you?
Um, but this is part of why I think the Raiders have brought in Pete Carroll.
Mm,
What they desperately need is some calm in the franchise. They need someone to settle things. It just seems like a franchise that was always on fire.
yeah,
Not even necessarily that something was always going on and there was something horrible happening and a
it's been
player
on
was getting
fire for
done for
about
this and
40
that.
years.
But they were always on fire. It was never a settled franchise. They were just never doing anything that they were always shooting themselves in the foot. Pete Carroll, they bring in Tom Brady. Tom Brady obviously comes in with the whole like, look, we need to start doing things a bit differently. And you get a coaching who's obviously got a lot of experience, a level head, and will hopefully calm everyone down. Max Crosby is 27 years old. Let's not pretend like he's in his mid 30s. He's got time.
Mm.
He's not exactly been particularly injury prone throughout his career, so he's got time. He's got a few years
He
left in
only
him.
missed the game. Like the only
Exactly.
the only games he missed this season was because he got the injury like midway through, and then I think he had to, call it quits on the season.
Hmm.
But for it to be, bad enough for him to do that, it has to be bad because I've seen this guy on the injury report so many times throughout the week. And then when it comes to Sunday, he's playing. He's always playing. So he battles through what's the
Yeah.
stuff that he has.
And I just if Pete Carroll's been able to come in and say, look, we might not compete this year, but my plan with Tom Brady and all that sort of stuff is we're going to put a winning product on the field.
Yeah.
You will be the cornerstone. You are the franchise player right now.
Mm.
And I can only imagine that Max Crosby has gone. I will give you the benefit of the doubt. You've gone and Tom Brady has gone and won 7 Super Bowls. Pete Carroll has gone and won a Super Bowl, been to two with the Seahawks. I can only imagine he's gone, right, I trust the process. I will give you the benefit of the doubt, but also give me a lot of money for that benefit of doubt. Um,
Yeah. True.
so maybe it's not benefit of doubt, maybe it's benefit of bank account. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's
True.
Yeah, it's a bit of both. I think that you've got to, if you know that if you're going to offer him a 3-year deal that's 90% guaranteed, you're going to do it with the thought that in 3 years' time minimum, you're going to be in that Super Bowl or at least in contention.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not going to do that otherwise. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if they probably said to him, "Look, give us 3 years. If we don't do it in 3 years, you can go somewhere else who can win money." But then by that time he's 30. Towards the end of his career, he's gonna want to move anyway. So I
Yeah.
think
I mean,
in
that's
that
what
sense,
happens, isn't it, to those older players who haven't won a championship, to when they get towards the latter end of their career, they want that moment in the limelight. They want to be able to say that they were on a team that won a Super Bowl. Um, so yeah,
um yeah, I can completely. I think it's going to be one of them. I like to think that Pete Carroll's walked in and gone, listen, I'm here to stabilize everything. Give me a chance. You can be the franchise player. and will give you a boatload of money.
Yeah, the only thing is they've got to sort out that offense because our offense is an utter mess.
And that
Other than
was
Brock Bowers.
a record-breaking contract for a couple of days. And then in U-turn of the century, and what was a very quick U-turn for what like normally these situations pan on into the season, Myles Garrett has signed a extension with Cleveland, a 4 year, $160 million, $123.5 million guaranteed, averaging $40 million a year as a defensive end. Now I wound up Ollie a little bit over the last few weeks with my hashtag free Miles
Yes,
Garrett's,
you did.
and I will continue to do so. This is fun. This is fun. But
Why are you hitting a brother while he's down? Come on.
I have very personal gripe at the moment with Cleveland, and it's nothing to do. To do with someone very different. It's just collateral damage, and it is what it is. But no, Miles Garrett absolutely deserves every penny of this deal.
100% he
He is
does.
the best non-quarterback in the NFL. Best player is not a
Yes.
quarterback, I believe, in the NFL. Um, but like I said, the only thing that shocked me a little bit was how quickly this got turned around. You don't see deals like this turn around this quickly very often. They normally work their way into week one, week two of the season, or at least throughout a load of the OTAs and minicamp where they don't turn up. So I want to actually, for all banter and all winding up aside, shout out to Andrew Berry for getting this sorted as soon as.
Well,
Mm.
I think that's the prerogative of it is that Jimmy Haslam took a step back, realized that, he had to give control over to Andrew Berry to actually get this deal done. Like he didn't interfere. He could have done. He could have because obviously Myles Garrett requested to have a meeting with him. He turned it down. He was like, "No, I'm going to let the general manager do his job." And Andrew Berry and whatever Andrew Berry said to Myles Garrett, and they had that conversation, clearly swayed him in a way that this team is going to be competitive in the future. That there is a solution at hand,
Yeah.
that within the time that Myles Garrett is still in his prime, and still one of the better players in the NFL, that they're going to be competing for not just division titles, Super Bowls. So yeah, that must have been the sort of conversation that he had because you're right, it's such a U-turn though, because Myles Garrett was like, he wasn't even engaged in contract talks or anything. He was like, I'm off. He literally did Radio Row on the eve of the Super Bowl, going around being like, yeah, so I think I'm done in Cleveland. I'm gonna go. I want to go to win a Super Bowl. And obviously the money and the bag changes, but also with the way that this guy's driven, there's got to be a message that he's had from Andrew
Yeah.
Berry because he wouldn't have just. It's not all about him, the money for him. Like he wants to win.
Okay. All right. Oh. Okay. No, absolutely. And look, you're absolutely right. He will, at the end of the day, we'll all look forward to seeing him back at a Super Bowl in the future. Obviously, it will be on Radio Row, um, again, or when he's working for Fox or whatever. But we will be at a Super Bowl. And the idea always Cleveland to Canton. That was what the phrase, wasn't it? Cleveland to Canton for him.
Yep.
He will be in Canton. That's undeniable. And just to finish off this is just the. Oh, I do have a question for you both. Before I move on from it, I do want to say, Ollie, I love you, but I'm perfectly happy with you being collateral damage in my beef with somebody else. It is what it is. Shit happens. But I do love you, my brother, and we can't wait to get you back in uh in the next few weeks. I do have a question for both of you. With Max Crosby and Miles Garrett signing these deals, how much of an evil smile does Micah Parsons have on his face right now when he talks to Jerry Jones? And just how much is Jerry Jones shitting himself, knowing he's got to pay Dak Prescott the money he's paying Dak Prescott, CD Lamb the money he's paying CD Lamb, and now he's got to look Micah Parsons in the eye when Miles Garrett's just got $40 million a year and Max Crosby's just got all that.
Yeah, it's a day that he's Jerry Jones is going to be turning over in his sleep, like thinking about how much money he's going to have to give to Michael Parsons to give him the bag and actually stay in Dallas because otherwise there's plenty of suitors he's going to have if he doesn't re-sign. Every
Just
team in the NFL basically is going to want him because the guy's a beast. So yeah, he's got to have deep pockets for this one.
he has the leverage of the century now. Like you think of players that will just be able to just he can basically now walk in and basically say, Match Miles Garrett or I'm going." Essentially, is what he can say. And although I don't think he necessarily deserves a contract of that size, he believes he can, and he believes he does. So, in his eyes, if you're going to offer him that, you're going to have to. If he's going to get that, I want that. So, yeah, it's straight up. He is now in the driving seat for how he wants who he wants to play for because he now has a essentially a price that he's willing to take,
Yeah. In a follow-up, do you think
which is
this has
hilarious. Which is hilarious because it's Jerry Jones.
in a follow-up, do you think this has anything to do with why the Bengals threw in the pay, threw, like waved the white flag with Trey Hendrickson?
Well, I think the Bengals are so backwards in the way that they do everything because if you look at the way that they've done it, if they'd re-signed Jamar Chase when they had the early chance to do it, and these other receivers hadn't got money and all this kind of stuff, then they would have got him for X. If they, re-signed Trey Hendrickson when they'd done that before these deals, they could have got him on a cheaper deal, but they didn't. And then the same thing with T. Higgins as well. Look how much DK Metcalf got going to the Seahawks. He got what 150 million guaranteed, no, 150 million with 130 or something guaranteed, is it? Something like
Something like
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that sets the market for those guys, and because the Bengals haven't done anything, they're going to have to pay top dollar to keep those guys. And, they've realized that they're not going to be able to pay Trey Hendrickson. So
Yeah.
the guy that literally led the league in sacks last season is now off and he's going to go to, a team that wants him. And the Bengals, again, are just behind the eight ball again. And this is why
Yeah.
Mike Brown, and this is why they're not competing for Super Bowls every season because he's not willing to put his money where his mouth is.
How many more points on average per game does Joe Burrow need to get them now next season in order for them
Eight.
to win 4 games? 40
There's
points a
something-
game.
Joe Burrow has got to put in like MVP performances every single game just to keep them in games,
Oh yeah,
which is
you might see the first ever to win
They
MVP. Like
basically don't
that's
have a defense anymore. Like their defense was Trey Hendrickson, and then they've lost him. And like, who else do they have? They gave away all these players. They
well,
didn't re-sign the guy that Jesse Bates, who went to Atlanta. They didn't re-sign Bell. They let him go, and then they've been terrible ever since. Like they're
well,
just
this
a
is what I
joke
said
of a
last season
franchise.
when the Lions picked up DJ Reader, and I was like, you can't just let pieces like that walk out the door and then go, well, we got Joe Burrow, it's fine. Like you, again, yes, I'm a bit of a hung when it comes down to this, but again, I saw this for years when we had Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson. You have the guy who went away and within 2 minutes won a Super Bowl elsewhere. Calvin Johnson, who had the career that he did, like in terms of success, but then walked into the Hall of Fame because he was that fucking good. And we made like 2 playoff games in that time, let alone one. We didn't win one. You can't keep putting a very, very good quarterback in, even put a Jamar Chase near him with no defense and say, we'll make it work.
Yeah,
It's
just
just
score
gonna make
40
it,
points a game and
it
yeah.
no
doesn't work like
defense,
that.
no defense and no O line, but it's okay because you franchise tag T Higgins.
Exactly.
For the
Exactly.
second year in a row they have, because they just still can't get the long-term
It's
deal done.
ridiculous.
It's just
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
crazy. Like
That's
why Mike Brown won't get ahead with the times and actually offer guaranteed money after the first year, I will never know.
Yeah. The last bit I totally forgot to write because I didn't put it in the sheet. I put it on my notes because this needs to be special for everybody. We mentioned the Giants and QBs. have we not forgot that the Giants do now have their QB of the future back in the building? Tommy DeVito himself is back. Um, Tommy DeVito, who's most famous because his agent was stood on the sideline with his little bowler hat on and on the phone, looking like he was putting a hit out on someone. It
Yeah.
was, um, yeah, that's brilliant. So the Giants are sorted at QB. They're not going to take one in the draft anymore. They're sorted. Um, Tommy
Have we
DeVito stays.
have we mentioned that? I don't know if you may have mentioned it on a previous pod. I've not had a chance to catch up, but did we mention about Lewis Rees-Zammit getting re-signed by the
We
Jaguars
did.
before?
We did,
Good.
yes.
Just because I did notice it a couple of weeks ago, and obviously I've not had a chance to
And
join. So I tried,
yeah,
obviously with the
We
Six
did
Nations
indeed.
being on, and
and
Yeah.
we reminded people between Tom and I that like, yes, it sounds really nice that Lewis Rees-Zammit has been re-signed, but it's a
You got to
90-man
temper your
roster now. Like
expectations.
temper those expectations just a little bit.
yeah,
He was always going to be a project. He was always going to be a couple of years of work. It's okay. Um, right.
he suits the Jags anyway. I think in
Yeah.
terms of their um all their stuff over here.
So we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week. Just go quickly on the combine. Did anyone stand out to you guys in the combine? I know we've kind of spoke about it on the college pod over there, Sam. So
We'll start with Tom.
we'll start with Tom. Did you watch much of the combine?
I watched what I could. I didn't get to watch too much of it. But from what I caught of it, I liked a lot of kind of what the wide receivers did and the DBs as well. Actually, the DBs kind of stood out to me. I thought it was a really good DB class, and the speed of some of them as well on the 40 as well. Some of those DBs was pretty mad. And one thing I did love is that no one got close to Xavier Worthy's time for last year. So I think the closest we got to was what was 4.29 maybe. So and I think that was from his former Texas teammate.
No, it was he was close, but he was the second. It was Maxwell, the cornerback. Maxwell, I can't remember his surname now.
Oh,
He
was
was the
it? It was yeah. So one
yeah.
of the corners. There you go.
But Matthew Golden was the second. Who was the Texas wide receiver? Yeah.
But the one guy I really loved watching at the combine, Fletch, is someone that I hope the Chiefs sign in maybe back end of the third round. Is Cam Scatterboo out of Arizona State. Like he's just a beast.
I don't know if you listen to the college pod that we do, but we have been since towards the end of the college football season, we've just been creaming ourselves over Cam Scatterboo. But like, he's brilliant. Um,
Mm. I mean,
um,
I got to watch him. Well, obviously, watch him against our Texans, and he tore us a new one and was close to upsetting us. I mean, he played so well. And he tried to win the game just on his own.
yeah, well, he did though, and I'm gonna say them because in that game he showed how versatile he is as like just the little packages and little plays you can throw him in on. He's your sneaky little wildcat. He's your trick play quarterback who can throw a pass because he threw a touchdown pass in that game. Um,
He
he's
was also
just
thrown up on the sideline and
he
coming back on
was
and playing. Like
he
he was all
was.
over the place.
Um, Yeah, he's brilliant. We've been quite high on Scatterboo. Unfortunately, for someone like Scatterboo as well, he's just had to live in a college football world where Ashton Genty also exists.
Yes,
So
very
for a
true.
lot of for a lot of this year, he was kind of swept under the rug while we were all enjoying watching Ashton Genty do what he was doing. But no, he's brilliant. You can't go wrong with someone like that at the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think we've got. I think this year. I mean, we talked about in previous years where we've had maybe one or two good running backs. I think we've got a good, strong core of running backs. I think obviously with I can't say Travarius Tre, Henderson, the bloke out of Ohio. Can't remember
Oh,
what his
he's
first.
good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The running
Obviously,
back.
we were expecting him to come to the TFL the year before, and he decided to stay in Ohio.
Is it Trevion
Um,
Henderson?
Fabian
yeah,
Henderson, yeah.
yeah, I couldn't remember how to say his first name. I just knew it was Trey, and then it began with a big V. Um, but yeah, obviously he was expected to come in last year and he didn't. And we've got quite a few. I think Donovan Edwards was another one that we thought was going to come in and didn't. But we seem to have got a lot this year, and I think a lot that are obviously we know that running backs as a position don't tend to go particularly high, but they do. I think there are a lot this year that could potentially be NFL starters. I think obviously we
Yeah.
mentioned Janti. I think Caleb Johnson has a great chance of being a star. I think he looks absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, Kushon Judkins,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
Henderson, obviously being another, Scatterbo being another, and one guy I mentioned who I really liked at the combine was and I can't remember Tootin, I think his name is, who performed quite well, and I quite like him. So it's a nice class because I think we always tend to only have like one or two real big ones, and then the rest are just sort of there. But I think this year there's a lot more that are like Ollie Hampton and those like that I think could do a big job. So
Yeah, I was
um,
gonna say Marion Hampton as well. I'm gonna throw him in there. I'm gonna throw Dylan Sampson in there as well, the Vols running back.
Mullins,
Devin Neal. There are quite a few very solid running backs, and obviously you mentioned Donovan Edwards. It's no secret. I watched Donovan Edwards now for 2 years. He absolutely crushed it during the championship season for Michigan, alongside
Blake
God,
Corum.
Mullins.
yeah, uh, but yeah,
How do you forget Blake Corum? Come on, Fletch.
it's just like there's a lot of information being processed in my brain at this moment in time. Yeah. He ended up having he had a great season alongside Blake Corum. Put him now. He got put on the as the Michigan man on the cover of CFB 25. Now that curse now is a thing because he was crap this year. Um, not injured though, like the Madden curse. He was just crap. Um, but put him
That's
alongside Khalil Mullins. Khalil Mullins was fantastic this season. Um, so I mean, I mean, neither of them, bearing in mind, not even Khalil Mullins, who I thought was brilliant, is in my top 10 for running backs this year. It is a strong year. Um,
Yeah, I mean
both,
you've still got the likes of like Raheem Sanders,
yeah,
Ollie Gordon, who was had a terrible year, RJ Harvey, who was really good for UCF. I mean,
yeah.
you just look at the list. There is so many in this class that could
Ollie
easily.
Gordon, Ollie Gordon was the one who was tipped to have the Heisman season as a running back. Everyone thought, wow, you play with him on college football 25, and it was like putting it was like putting Madden Christian McCaffrey in against. Like, it was just ridiculous. He was he was so good, and then just
Reggie
He was
Bush.
awful last
yeah,
season, so bad. Like, there were so many games where you expect him, like what Ashton Janty did, where he would step up and basically just take the game, and it was just Ashton Janty versus whoever he was playing. It was everyone was expecting that of Ollie Gordon, and every time they needed him, he just flitted away and just didn't do anything. And I think that
Yes.
that's going to be a real struggle if you're going to be like that in the NFL. You won't.
yeah.
He won't last.
Um, with that in mind, and you say a couple of plays there, is there a particular position group that you were sat there and thought, okay, on watch apart from maybe running backs?
Yeah,
Um,
I like the DBs, to be fair. Like, especially because the Chiefs are going to look for a DB anyway. I imagine in the draft because they're going to have to re-sign. They're going to have to sign Trent McDuffie at some point, whether it's this off season or next off season. He's going to get signed because he's one of the best corners in the NFL. But they're going to have to get someone alongside him as well. So I did like the look of some of the DBs, some of the safeties, because the safety's been a bit of an issue for the Chiefs. Obviously, I know they signed Jaden Hicks, or they drafted him last year. So they're thinking he's going to be the answer. They're not going to re-sign. It doesn't look like they're going to re-sign Justin Reed. So that's an interesting one that I saw.
yeah,
Yeah, I think cornerbacks is well, defensive backs as a whole is an interesting one. I think, you've got Am Amanwari, is that how you say his name? He looked
yeah.
really good, the safety. Obviously with Travis Hunter as being the big one. You've got the likes of Will Johnson, Jade Barron. Um, Malachi Starks is another name. I think that there's quite a lot that are potential. I think straight in starts. I wouldn't even like question half of these if they would straight. Like Siobhan Ravel Jr. He could be. There's. I think there's so many. I think you're probably looking at. I would say potentially six or seven that could be first round picks.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And some of it, so much of it is going to just be simply how it falls. And there are a lot of it feels like there's a lot of edge needy teams at the moment.
Yeah.
I feel there's a lot of teams out there for defensive edges, and this is a deep defensive edge class as well. It's a really good if you want D linemen, particularly well, you start off with Abdul Carter and then work your way down anywhere you want. It's a very deep class for that. Um, I also want to give a shout out to Upton Stout as well, the safety from Western Kentucky. I'll give a shout out to Malachi. Well, you said Malachi Moore, didn't you?
No, I said Malachi Starks.
That's the one. Well, give a shout out to Malachi Moore as well from Alabama, but also the guy who I think I've got him as my number one safety on my little board. Um, Partly because he's very, very good, but also because I like saying his name, Upton Stout. It's a fantastic name to say. I don't care. So I also think he's a very good. It's a very very good class for DBs. You watch it's a good day to watch that one. Um, yeah, it should be interesting. Again, we're going to cover so much of the draft stuff over the next few weeks. Um, where I was legit, yeah. Um, we're going to cover so much of the draft stuff over the next few weeks that focusing on this sort of stuff is going to be a little bit. It's going to be moot in the next couple of weeks because the problem with the draft and the problem with the combine is that knowing where it's going to fall is all depends on what comes first, and that's free agency. Now, as I mentioned before, a couple of hours ago, free agency opened. Well, tampering, not tampering even. The negotiation period opened up a couple of hours ago. Players have already started to be signed. Trades have already started to push through. Players have already started to. Now, we'll go through a couple like the general position groups. I think um at any point, please do also throw in any that have happened over the last couple of hours. Next week, I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about. On the defensive side of the ball, some key ones that we've had come through. Harold Landry to the Patriots. Josh Sweat went today to the Cardinals. Hassan Reddick went to the Bucks. Talanoa Hufanga went to the Broncos. That's a good one. Carlton Davis went to the Patriots. Laramie Tunsil has been traded from the Texans to the Commanders.
Bye bye,
Hey,
CJ Stroud.
pardon?
Bye bye, CJ Stroud being able to stand up straight.
Yeah.
Um, this is some. I mean, this is just a decent move. These are just the kind of the ones that are a bit more of note than others. After Hassan Reddick had that whole thing last year, he's now with the Bucks. He's found a home. Patriots starting to put together some pieces on that team. They've had a decent day, I think. I've seen a couple of the moves that they've made. What's standing out to you on the defensive side of trades at the moment and free agency?
I
I
mean, I
like the
know there's
Harold Landry one to the Patriots, to be fair. I think he's an underrated player. I think he was really good for the Titans. Um, so signing him for the Patriots makes sense.
I think one that I thought, I know we've not mentioned it, but I think it's a really interesting one at cornerback is Travarius Ward has been has agreed a 3 year deal worth up to 60 million, including 35 guaranteed to join. Where's it gone? He has just joined someone. Where the hell is that just gone?
What was this just now?
Yeah, yeah, the Colts. That's where he's gone.
Oh wow, that's a great signing from the
So,
Colts.
so they've signed him, and obviously Cam Bynum they've signed as well at safety. So
They're
they're
loading
back.
up on the defense.
Yeah, I know they was it. No, it's not the Colts. They didn't. They missed out on Snead, didn't they? The Colts.
Yeah, the Titans
Yeah.
got him.
So yeah, they've got those two, which I thought were interesting. I think they're two really good deals, which so obviously sort of in terms of defensive backs are sort of really interesting. It's certainly an area I'm interested in because I think we could do with a lot of work in terms of the corners and that. So they're sort of the big ones. I suppose is an area that I'm looking at. But I think one of the other ones that I was really impressed with was the Broncos getting Hafanga.
Yeah,
I've obviously got to experience him two games a season, and he is a wrecking ball when he's fit. He's an absolute monster. So I think to get him, that's a huge signing for the Broncos, especially adding him to the likes of Satan and that. It just makes their defensive back just look scary.
yeah. I would say sorry, just adding a couple extra ones. Couple have come through. We'll talk about them in a minute. Um, no, I completely, especially the Hafanga one. I really, really, really like the Hafanga one to the Broncos. We all know what Sean Payton's like. We all know the type of defense that Sean Payton wants to bring, and someone like Hafanga's going to be just like
He can
electric on
stay
it.
healthy, that is, because
Yeah,
he has struggled with injuries as well. Well, it's last season he did anyway.
Yeah, he had that big injury, didn't he, last season? Last season that kept him out quite a long way. Um,
um,
so yeah,
When he's healthy, he is a beast.
um, personally, a little disappointing. Carlton Davis to the Patriots is what it is. Oh well. A little bit disappointing, but it is what it is. That's the nature of the game.
You wanted him to resign.
I would have liked him to have re-signed, but
I like I
it
like
just
how
wasn't
because I
there.
know one of the big things that I've obviously gone on this season last season a lot was about our defensive line and how much of a monster it was. We've had a Puna Ford, which is just ridiculous because he is an absolute tank. So I think obviously we were talking about. I think the big thing for us was whether we were going to re-sign Bobby Brown the second. He's now gone to the Panthers, I believe, as a free agent. But we've signed Puna Ford, and I think that's an absolutely fantastic signing personally. Adding him to, you know, um, the monster forward front line we already have. So he's just going to be hopefully, fingers crossed, going to just be a wrecking ball.
Justin Watson's just signed with the Houston Texans from the Chiefs. That's literally came up 1 minute ago.
Such an odd
Um,
signing.
Mrs. Fletch and I also signed a Ford Puma about a week ago. That was
Puna Ford, yeah.
yeah. Well,
That name.
yeah.
Absolutely fantastic name.
Um, so that's the defense. One interesting one I've seen. So I think we kind of spoke about this off air. I say that like we're a radio show or like some massive thing. We spoke about this off camera, before I click record. The the Bears' biggest problem last season for getting Caleb Williams going was that O line. Ben Johnson, he's walked in the building. First thing he's done, let's get some pieces in on that O line, and they've done. Made a couple of very nice moves. Jonah Jackson, they've gone and got him from the LA Rams, someone who he worked with Jonah Jackson when Jonah Jackson was in Detroit. So someone he knows and trusts. I mean, I'm really sorry, Sam. It's going to sound really ignorant. Did Jonah Jackson get going much for the Rams? It seems a bit odd that he was only there for a year.
He started the season injured. He got injured uh, in the preseason, and we ended up having to force him into playing centre, and it just didn't work out. He just could never keep himself fit. He couldn't just, and he wasn't playing in the position where he wanted to. He was constantly getting shifted about, and we ended up, whilst he was out, starting Bo Limmer at centre, who was fantastic for us,
Yeah,
and just other pieces were just fitting in better than he was. And it was just it was unfortunate because I really liked the signing of him when we got him. It just never worked out. It was just one of those.
yeah,
So it is what it is.
You
yeah,
know, Fletch, one more thing on the defense, although it wasn't like a big signing, it was just nice to see was Levante David going back to the Bucks for one more season. Like
yeah,
he's already a Bucks legend. He's gonna go in the Ring of Honor, might go into the Hall of Fame. I mean, the guy's had an absolutely incredible career. For him to carry on with the Bucks was just
yeah,
felt fitting, really.
yeah.
Mm.
This is why I say there's only so many I can throw in a dot. You guys can see the list. It's already very, very long transport. So any that I've missed, please, like I say, please feel free to shout them out or anything because like it's hard to keep on track of them all anyway. Um, but obviously adding then to Jonah Jackson, who's worked with Ben Johnson before in Detroit, they've also added a familiar face for Tom here in Joe Tuna. Uh, Obviously, well, it would have been nice to have seen him probably stay at the Chiefs, but much needed help for Caleb Williams. And you were saying, like I say, off camera, that's the one thing they needed help with.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. I mean their offensive line was pretty atrocious last year. I mean, Caleb Williams was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. So they needed to shore it up, and they got pieces to do that. Jonah Jackson was a smart sign, and obviously Joe Tooney's a great signing for
Yeah,
them. Um, but I think for from the Chiefs' perspective of it, it's probably the Chiefs probably got out a year early rather than a year late because he is 32, going to be 33 this off season, and he is an absolute beast. He's one of the best guards, one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. But the Chiefs realized that they wanted to get younger in that position, so they franchise tagged Trey Smith, and they're trying to get the long-term deal done with him. And then when that happened, it felt like Joe Tooney's time with the Chiefs might come to an end. I mean, it was still shocking to see, just because he's been such a cornerstone piece for the last 4 seasons. But something that the Bears needed, and the Chiefs still get a fourth round pick next year. So I'm sure that they can use that. They might not even use that. They might try and use that to, go up in the draft or get some more compensation.
yeah. Um, but yeah, that clearly Ben Johnson walks in and goes trenches. Let's get those trenches sorted. That it was you
Your
always
offense is
kind of
never going to work if you don't have a decent O line. It's always been the
Yeah.
case,
no
and
100%.
obviously,
And just knowing that how he's put that offense
Just
forward
look
in
at the
the
Super Bowl. That's literally all you have to look at to realize if you don't have an O-line, how you're going to perform.
no, exactly. But if you look at how he had his offense in Detroit and what he's come up for it with the Lions, with that, the one thing we predicated ourselves in is that the way we got Goff going and the way we get the run game going is we have that O line. That O line needs to be solid, and we invest in that O line. First ever draft pick that this regime made, Penei Sewell,
mm,
the biggest, the first person they went out and paid when it was time to, Penei Sewell.
Yeah.
They invest in trenches, and that's something that Ben Johnson's going to take with him is you invest in those trenches. And again, well, as we said already this episode, look at the Bengals. If the Bengals are doing something, don't do that thing. When it comes
I
down
mean,
to management of your team.
look what we've done. We've re-signed Alaric Jackson to a brand new deal because he had a great season for us. He's been an excellent part of that O line and keeping Matt Stafford vertical. So
Yeah,
you've got to make sure that your O line is. I To me, I mean, I've said it for quite a while. I think the O line is the most important part uh, of your team
yeah,
overall because you don't have a decent O line, your QB is just completely fucked and it's ruined your whole offense. So
yeah,
I just think if there's one thing you're gonna fix, and obviously Ben Johnson is probably the guy who knows it best in terms of building an offense. You need to have your QB kept upright. And I mean, I said it when we did when there was the whole Stafford Goff trade. You need to give Goff time because
yeah,
I still say to this day he's a slow reader of his reads, but give him the time and he is a great quarterback.
yeah.
So
Um,
Great might be a little bit of a stretch, but
he's a solid quarterback.
just also on the whole offensive line, I'm going to let that one slide. Robert Hainsey to the Jaguars and Aaron Banks to the Packers um, have also been deals that have gone through today on O lines. Trevor Lawrence gets a little bit of extra protection, and Jordan Love, well, no one cares what happens over there anyway. We can just move past it. No,
You
just
what
a couple more O linemen moving.
was there another? Did the Jags also sign someone else that's in there for the O line, or was it
Again,
that was the guy I saw?
I would say that it's very easy that things could have slipped by me today.
Yeah, there was. I'm pretty sure I saw someone else, but there's been that many signings today. I mean,
Yeah.
can't keep up with them all, to be honest.
By the way, shout out to Tom Pelissero, Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport. Those men will have sore thumbs tonight.
Definitely.
Um, so yeah, shout out to all of them having to tweet constantly all day with these posts. Um, but yeah, those just a couple more offensive linemen on the move. If you do see it again, if you do see any other ones, just let me know. Um, some more interesting ones. Now this is where it really does start getting interesting, and we had the other day the news that Debo Samuel was traded to the Commanders in what is a you kind of what I think it's a fantastic pickup for the Commanders.
Yeah.
But it's not the blockbuster trade I think a lot of people tried to make it out to be, but it is still a solid pickup for the Commanders. He's going to make a brilliant wide receiver two to scary terror.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a smart move. It's not a big move by any stretch, I don't think, because you're not getting the Deebo Samuel of 2019, where he helped run that team all the way to the Super Bowl. Um, you're getting a Deebo Samuel who had a down year last year. You kind of know what he is. He's a bit of a gadgety player. He's not really I don't know if you call him elite wide receiver or not because he's a wide receiver running back hybrid, and on
Mhm.
his day he can have explosiveness and what have you. But those moments have been few and far between over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah,
So it felt like it was the right thing for the 49ers to do to move on. They obviously paid Brandon Ayuk, even though they're actually fielding calls for him as well.
yeah,
Um, Please, Brett Veach, go after Brandon Ayuk. But yeah, I do think it's something that they needed to do, to be honest. And then the Commanders, as you said, they get a wide receiver too. They get someone who can work really well with, especially in those kind of those read option sort of plays with Jen Daniels. You got a
yeah.
piece there that you can use as a running back, you can use as a dummy. Can kind of diversify your offense a bit as well. So I'm sure Cliff Kingsbury is excited about that.
Yeah, he's a
100%.
good player to bring in like for jet sweeps and stuff like that. He's
Yeah,
just if the moment he builds up speed, he is very hard to stop. It's just it can be of recent times it's been hard to get him to up to that speed to be able to be unstoppable. But yeah, he's like you say, he's a gadget player. He's the sort of one that you can bring into the backfield. You can put him out wide. You can put him inside. He can just do bits, and that's what you sort of need. And I think having someone like that benefits McLaurin because if you just double up on McLaurin, you leave Debo Samuel to, I say, build up speed, he will cause problems. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good signing. But like I say, it's if it had been Debo from 4 years ago, you'd been getting very excited.
oh
But
yeah, yeah. He wouldn't have
Yeah.
gone for a fifth round pick if it was from 4 years ago. He might have gone for a first
Mm.
round pick. Who knows?
yeah,
Um, in other moves at wide receiver, Christian Kirk has gone to the Texans. Nice little added piece there for CJ Stroud to throw to. Josh Palmer
In the
is
division as well.
in Buffalo. Well, yeah. Um, couple of decent. The only reason I mention these two in one go is because there's two more that need talking about, and I feel like we're going to spend a little bit of time on them too because they are big moves. Um, so Christian Kirk to the Texans, Josh Palmer to the Bills. Any particular thoughts on these, other than obviously a trade within division?
I
Texans
like Josh
seem to.
Palmer.
Yeah, the Josh Palmer one, I don't really understand. I think for me, the Bills are just they seem to be just collecting wide receiver twos. I mean, obviously, I know that Shakir's stepped up a bit and has become the wide receiver one there. But when they first obviously got rid of Diggs and they had Keon Coleman in, it just seemed like a collective of wide receiver twos. Then they brought Amari Cooper in, who didn't really do, who became a wide receiver two. And now they brought in Josh Palmer, who seems like a wide receiver too. There seems to be a lot of just average to good wide receivers in that core. But I suppose you can't have enough targets, can you?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing though. I think they're trying to give Josh Allen some weapons, but it's tough because you've just given Josh Allen that big contract as well. I
Mm,
wonder how much cap space they've got left to, sort because I imagine if they wanted to, they could have gone after, Devontae Adams instead of the Rams, like, or they could have gone after one of these other guys. Even I mean, they wouldn't have done this, but they could have gone after DK Metcalf. Who knows?
mm.
I mean, I didn't think he was going to end up at the Steelers. I thought that was a kind of a weird one, to be honest. Like, I mean, I would have picked him to end up at the Raiders for sure. Maybe even the
Currently,
Patriots.
currently the Bills are 6 mil over the cap.
6 mil over the cap, exactly. So they're
Sorry, no,
gonna have to
six
do
mil under.
something
Sorry,
anyway.
6 mil under. So
Oh, okay.
they're teetering. It's not there's not a lot of wiggle room. So
No,
uh,
exactly.
I can kind of understand it, I suppose, in terms of why they're
Yeah.
bringing in like the likes of Josh Palmer. I just find it to me, it's just an odd one. I think it's a piece they don't necessarily need, but I kind of get it. Unless they plan to move on someone like Amari Cooper because they don't feel that he's done what they need him to do or something like that.
Fletch, who was the other one you said? Josh Palmer and who?
It was the Christian Kirk to the Texans. Um, but
Good move.
real quick, just on the Bills one, sorry, is I a bit of news that actually I think has slipped through is they signed Khalil Shakir to a decent extension. He was fantastic. That second half of the year, how often was he coming up on Thursday episodes, Sam, when we were
Mm,
doing the fantasy game day apps?
yeah,
Mentions, and we were talking about some of the players, and we were all of a sudden we were just like, Khalil Shakir's getting 10 targets a game, and he's picking up 8 of them, and he's getting 100 yards, 110 yards, 120 yards per game, and it just seems to be every game at the moment. He turned up, and I think we all had questions over whether bro can can he do it without his top wide receiver? Can he do it now? Stephon Diggs has gone to the Texans. Can he do that? Offense ain't going to be great. He's only got Keon Coleman and then Khalil Shakir and oh great, they got America. Josh Allen made it work and he made it look like work at times. I think they sound like wide receiver twos, but put them with Josh Allen and he
you've
will
also got
make
to
them
remember as
work.
well. They've still got Dalton Kincaid as well, who's a great tight end. Um, in terms of the Christian Kirk one, I don't understand it too much. Again, I get the idea that you can't have too many weapons, but they've got Stephon Diggs, they've got um, Nico Collins. Yeah, yes, okay, they've got Tank Dell, who's now probably not even going to see the light of day for until 2026. But you've got weapons there. I don't understand the addition of Kirk unless they know that Tank Dell is not going to see any of this season. You could maybe understand it. I just think that
Well,
Xavier
I
Hutchinson
think I
seems to
do think
step
that
it up.
though. I think the injury that he got, like, I think the only time you see the season is maybe right on the back end of it.
Yeah, but the problem is, you can sign Christian Kirk, you can have Diggs, and you can have Nico Collins, but you've just traded away Larry Tunsil. Just you can have these weapons, but you can't keep Stroud long, like vertical enough to be able to hit them. So I don't know. I think it seems like it doesn't seem to me it doesn't seem right. I don't see the point in getting Kirk when you already have the other two. But unless they just see it as I think Xavier Hutchinson was doing a great job in that season. So I just think it seems like a bit of an odd signing, and it seems odd for the Jags to get rid of him, especially as they've also got rid of Engram as well.
Yeah. He's only going to count 16 million towards the cap, Christian Kirk. So he's not overly expensive.
Mm.
Well, I say overly expensive, not when you give the implications of the increased salary cap and some of the other players they've got going on. CJ Stroud had his sophomore slump of the year. The question you have to put on, and this isn't me talking as a Michigan fan, this is me talking as an NFL fan here. Ohio State don't have the best record when it comes to QBs in the NFL. CJ Stroud had one brilliant season, and don't get me wrong, his sophomore slump season, he still made the playoffs, and
Mm.
still won the division. Granted, it was the AFC South, which I think us three could win, but it is what it is. The question was which season is CJ Stroud? Is it rookie season or sophomore season? Which one are we going with? And season three is where you find out which CJ Stroud is going to be the CJ Stroud of the NFL.
Mm.
This is where so maybe giving him an extra veteran piece who might be helpful. I mean, but I also get the whole trading Larry Tunsil thing, and now
Yeah,
you've
it
just
makes
got weakened your O line.
it makes no sense having Kirk if you're not going to be able to protect CJ Stroud to make the throws to him.
No, fair point. Completely fair point. I understand that. Um, but the two really important ones at wide receiver, like I say, 5 years ago, Deebo Samuel would probably have been top of this list, but there are two that really do take the thing. Um, DK Metcalf to the Steelers. Now, I don't know what bribery, what weirdness. Ollie has mentioned this on so many occasions. The Steelers just have this thing for wide receivers where they just hit on them. They just know what they're doing with wide receivers, and then they go and get DK Metcalf.
Angry wide receiver core. This is the angriest wide receiver core you'll see in the NFL with George Pickens and DK Metcalf.
Have you not
It's,
seen the memes, Sam? I was sending one to Fletch earlier. It's like the WWE like back in the day. Like
yeah,
that's exactly what it is. It's the
yeah.
two hot heads, two big personalities, both playing on the same and gonna have to, share the balls. So that can be an interesting dynamic.
Will
Fighting
we?
between themselves, aren't they?
I'm gonna say, will we get Lee Bowyer and Kieran Dyer
Oh,
2.0?
that would be
Oh yeah,
good.
we're gonna
That
have
would be good. Yeah.
I love being able to make that reference and have both of you straight away. I just know exactly what it actually meant, what I said.
yeah.
Um,
Or back in the day in the NFL, Cortland Finnegan and who was it? Who was the other one? Is it Aaron Foster?
was it Arian Foster?
I can't remember. I can't remember. It was Cortland Finnegan and someone, but they just were punching the shit out
I
of
was
each.
gonna say Arian Foster was one of my I get an early favorite of mine. I love Arian Foster. I still follow him to this day, and see some of the stuff that he boasts. Um, he's a sound guy. One of the best free agents of all time, I think. Arian Foster as well. Just one hell of a pickup. Anyway, that's not the point. Um, while you figure that one out as well, just Mike Tomlin seems to have this thing though where he can take some of those hotheads and just get the best out of him to the point where he might deserve a Nobel Peace Prize. It, I mean, AB didn't really get up to much when he was in Pittsburgh. It was when he left that he started being AB. The man might be in for a Nobel Peace Prize if he can keep some of these
And
players down.
it was Andre Johnson and Cortland Finnegan through hands.
Oh, and
Okay,
Andre
not Arian
Johnson. That's
Foster.
it. That's who it was.
Um,
Not Aaron Foster. Well, then shout out to Aaron Foster.
also,
He's,
still shout out to Arian Foster.
unsung running back in the NFL who's a beast.
Yeah, like I said, still to this day, I'll follow him and see all the stuff that he's getting up to. Is a brilliant, brilliant. Um, with
I do
DK,
think that the DK Metcalf move is good for the Steelers. I think he's a very much a physical. Obviously, watching him again, being able to watch him against the Rams, if you can if he can be your focal point, he can be devastating as a wide receiver. I mean, when he came out, I remember when I first started sort of watching the NFL, and I wanted us to sign DK. I was because I just think he's so good. Obviously, his reputation for getting 15-yard penalties obviously goes along with that, but he is when he's on his game, he's I would say he's arguably up there as one of the top wide receivers in the league.
Oh
Just the
yeah, of
problem is
course, of
he
course he
has
is.
that other side to him, and like I say, if Mike Tomlin can temper that anger and or channel that anger, not necessarily temper it, but channel that anger, then I think you could be on for a winner for them. And I think they're only a couple of pieces. Again, the Steelers were really good last year. They're a couple of pieces away from maybe going that one step further. I think they still need to sort out QB, which we'll
Yeah,
come on to.
I mean,
But
I mean, you talk
yeah,
about DK Metcalf, you talk about a man beater, you talk about someone who can play against man and just burn like opposing DBs. That is the guy. I've seen him do it so many times. I mean, I saw him do it against the who was it? Against the 49ers in the playoffs a couple of seasons ago. I know the 49ers ended up winning the game, but he scored like he just like the ball thrown to him, touchdown, like 60-yard touchdown, because that's just the
yeah.
kind of player that he can be. If you can keep the temperament to a level that he's able to perform at that top level, I think it's a great signing from the Steelers.
and I mean
Um,
his size and his speed is just sometimes is unmatchable.
it
Like
is. It's insane
I will
for the
I'll
yeah.
never be able to forget that touchdown saving run that he did when Russell got picked off. That was just insane. And I mean, he has all the talent. It's
He
just
chased down Buda Baker, didn't he? Like Buda
yeah,
Baker's quick as well, but like that, yeah, that run will go down in NFL history. Like he's like a few steps behind him, and he just catches him up to
Yeah,
mm.
prevent the touchdown. Like that was
the
insane.
amount of you've got the amount of receivers who just couldn't catch up, but also the ones who just kind of
Especially at his size as well. You think he's like 6'4", something like ridiculous like that,
yeah,
and just the speed and size of him.
Got
He's
about
just
2% body fat. Like the guy is just an absolute
yeah, he's a
he
you
is a,
like
unit.
he's someone who like if you are a DB, you're thinking right, I'm gonna line up who am I marking on this one? Who am I up on the line against? I'm gonna talk some right smack here. Look up DK Metcalf, and you're just like, all right, pal.
yeah.
Have,
DK
have,
versus
having a good
Jalen
week.
is
Having a good
just one
weekend.
of
Oh, that's just absolute
DK
cinema. That
versus Jalen
was.
was one of the best
Yeah.
matchups we used to see. They used to just be at each other's throats every single game, but it was almost as bad as was it was it Tyron Matthew and
Tyron Matthew and oh crap, Mike Evans.
Evans? Yeah, that it was almost as bad as that, but
What
they genuinely.
You mean Marshawn Lattimore and
Sorry,
Mike
Marshall and
Evans?
That's the
Lattimore.
one.
Sorry, yeah,
That's the no, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It is
yeah.
because it was when he went to the Commanders, everyone was like, "Oh crap, we're gonna lose that." That was, but yeah, you're right. They genuinely had to despise it.
they hate
I
it,
I
but
always it always reminds me of that clip as well of like, do you ever see that one? It does the rounds every now and again. Like these two like 80-year-old men who played on the same football or baseball team or whatever when they were like teenagers. And they both get up on stage and sit next, and then they just start scrapping. They're both like the mid 80s, and they're both still like on like crutches and all sorts. But they just 70 odd years they'd held on to this just pure hatred for each other, and you get the feeling that that's Mike Evans and Tyron Matthew. Um, the other
Marshall.
Marshall
thing,
Lattimore.
now I've got him in my head.
That was my fault for mentioning Tyron
Yeah.
Matthew.
Um, but the other one that I think this is the one that you really kind of takes the biscuit so far wide receivers go. Sam, Devontae
Yes,
Adams to the Rams.
I mean,
Yeah,
me and Tom were speaking about this before. Um, it's it hurts. This trade hurts because it hurts me because I love Cooper Cup. He was one of my favorite Rams players since being a Rams fan. So it hurts to know that this signing means he goes.
yeah,
But if you're gonna bring in someone to replace Cooper Cup, who better to do it with than Devontae Adams? Like he's he is going to be if he can find the form again that he was at the Packers, he'll be a brilliant piece to add. And I think he's gonna complement. I think he's gonna complement Puka Nakua very well because it's not like with Cooper where you've got two wide receivers who have similar build, similar style. You're gonna have someone who is slightly different, and I think that'll work. And putting him with Stafford, we could see something special. Won't necessarily will. You know, we this could be Devon Adams' sort of the start of his decline, or it could be his resurgence. So it's going to go one way or the other, I think. But
yeah,
yeah, I don't.
Gonna be cinema either way.
Yeah, it's bittersweet for me. It'll always be just because of the fact we're losing Cup over it. But yeah, it's I'm glad it was him and not someone like Josh Palmer, personally. No, that's no beef against Josh Palmer, by the way. I'm just using him as an example.
Yeah,
Matthew,
where did all this Josh Palmer hate come from? No,
I
but
I I, I
but
don't mind
Sam,
him.
but Sam's right. I mean, it's a great signing for the Rams from the standpoint of it's a different type of wide receiver to what they've had before.
yeah,
You know, they got Puka Nacua, and now they've got Devontae Adams who can be that, that focal, that X, that guy who can go up and grab and get the ball, and is still one of the most elite route runners in the NFL as well. So it's a great signing from that standpoint, and also from the fact that Puka Nacua recently, at least, he's missed a few games with injury and what have you. So having a guy like that who can step in and be your wide receiver one if Puka is out
yeah.
is invaluable.
Well,
Adam Schefter just also said that Rams are planning to release Cooper Cup at the start of the new league year unless a trade materializes. So
yeah,
we already knew it was going to happen, but
I take him on the Chiefs.
realistically, I think he still has he has a lot to give. If he
yeah,
can, and again, it's very much that sort of similar element to Devontae Adams now is he's either going to have a resurgence or it's the start of the fall. But I mean, if he can join, I think if he can find a team that's willing to take him on, um, someone like a Chiefs or another team that's trying to go for another Super Bowl,
yeah,
he's a perfect addition to that wide receiver core.
yeah,
Because not only it's not just with what the thing that I find what I love about Cup is it's not just his ability to make catches and his yards after catch. It's his line blocking is just second to none. And I
yeah.
think he just offered so much. And that's what I think we might lose with Devontae Adams. He doesn't offer that same style, but then we have Puka who does the exact same thing. So
Um, I was gonna say like your offense this season, right? I'm gonna read you out what it's probably gonna look like with Devontae Adams as WR2 or taking Cooper Cup's place. Matthew Stafford as a quarterback, Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, Devontae Adams, Tyler Higbee.
and potentially another and I mean you got Colby Parkinson there as well,
Yeah.
and
I,
obviously
I,
not Hunter. He's now
I'll
gone.
say other than O line, I was thinking who's going to be lying at any one given time. That's probably
Yeah,
what you're
that's
looking
your
at.
best. Yeah. It's silly good because if you think that Tutu Atwell is such a good deep ball threat, and to get him on a year, I think it was a year of 18 million for a year at his age is seems a
Was
bit
it two
odd.
years?
But no, it was a year contract.
Oh,
I
was it?
read. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a year, but
Um,
it might be a year extension.
yeah,
But I thought it was just a year.
but that's
Um,
that's dangerous. But my funny little thing, and I think this is the nice little segue into the other section of this, is hang on, let me get my thing back out because um as we've spoken about in quarterbacks is the last bit of the free agency trades I want to kind of talk about with all the things that have been done. Um, he spoke about how Aaron Rodgers, his name was being thrown out there as a potential landing spot for. I'm not saying it obviously, just say you spoke about it being rumored.
yeah, I'd
Uh,
have cried.
yeah, then you get Davante Adams. So you get half of Aaron Rodgers. You get Aaron Rodgers like
We get the better
um
half.
yeah, and you also didn't do that horrifically cringy thing of doing the little reveal on the Pat McAfee show, where Devontae Adams peeks in behind Aaron Rodgers, like Matthew Stafford's head, um, which was just awful. But the Aaron Rodgers was mentioned as I think you get the other part of Aaron Rodgers, and I thought Devontae Adams gets the opportunity to go and play with another QB he knew in the NFC North when he played against, which is always a good thing. And I can only imagine that is someone as he went up against Stafford every 2 year, twice a year, someone who's probably relished also playing with at any given time. it's been mentioned before by she who likes to run her mouth, um, that Stafford was having that trouble getting with some of the younger parts of the locker room. That's an
So
experienced vet, someone he knows
there's
from.
just another. Can we add another QB to the list on who to talk about in terms of when we come on to him is Zach
Yeah.
Wilson because he's just been traded
Right, okay,
or
we'll
he's
get we'll get
signing
onto.
to someone. I find it really
Um,
funny.
but I do want to talk about quarterbacks. We'll get onto that, and you can add Zach Wilson in there. Couple of really crazy moves to start off with. One that no one saw coming. We woke up one morning. We were just getting about our day, and then all of a sudden, Geno Smith's in Las Vegas. Were you just wanted a reunion with Pete Carroll? Pete Carroll wanted someone he knew, someone he could trust in at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what it is. It's in the fact that he brings that leadership aspect. He's an above average QB. He's gonna help bring that team along, and he's gonna have that same philosophy that Pete Carroll has. And I think that's the main reason why it's been reported that he got offered between 40 to 45 million on a 2-year extension with the Seahawks and turned it down. So clearly, the rest of what the Seahawks have been doing, disjointed it enough where, DK Metcalf requests a trade. They released Tyler Lockett, Seahawks legend. Um, and then he's like, well, I'm out of here. So he's off to the Raiders. So yeah, it seemed like a smart move and
Yeah,
something that's in line with what Pete Carroll wants.
Like you
absolutely.
say, the big part of that is stability. Like they need stability, and I think with the fact that they had was it Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, and uh,
Inflation, basically.
who was the other? Drew. No, not
They had Breeze
the
for a
old.
while. Not Breeze, not Breeze, Derek Carr for a while.
Yeah, and then they brought in the old Falcons QB. He played
Oh,
last year.
Desmond Ridder.
Desmond
Yes,
Ridder,
that's
yeah,
one.
he also played last year. So they had those three, none of which I would say you could fully trust. I mean, the fact they went into last season having no idea whether O'Connell or Minshew were going to be the starters, then one of them got injured, so they had to bring in Desmond Ridder. He played for a little bit. It was a complete mess. To have someone like Geno Smith, who he's tough, he's reliable to a certain degree, but also he knows Carroll's offense or what Carroll likes to do on offense in terms of the way he likes to scheme things. And I think it'll help having. I mean, they already have Brock Bowers who had a record season.
Yeah,
Now having a quarterback who's competent throw to him, you could end up seeing him go even further. So, I mean, the fact that they are willing to let Michael Mayer go somewhere else because of the fact they have Brock Bowers just says what it does about him. But
yeah,
we need to have stability, and I think he does offer some stability. And I think he offers something that I don't think the Seahawks took advantage of is having a rookie quarterback sit under him and learn things. Obviously, we'll come on to that in a bit, but I think that's where Gino would be useful in helping someone else benefit in the long
yeah,
term for Pete Carroll or for the long term for the Raiders.
yeah. Um, quick apologies to everyone. If you listen to this long enough, you know I'm not this. There's something with me in names today. I just can't like names unless it's written in front of me. I can't with names today. I just don't know what it is. I'm not actually this stupid. Um, I promise. But yeah, so we've got Geno Smith to the rear. I think that's an excellent point. And do you think this changes whether how and when they draft a QB? If they draft a QB,
I think they still draft the QB. I think, but
do
it's
you still think they prioritize
as
it at the
Sam
draft?
said, yeah, I do think they still do prioritize, but I think it gives them that stability, something that they haven't had for a long time at the quarterback position, ever since Derek Carr was there, really. So yeah, it just provides them with a building block where, as you said, Fletch, we're probably not going to be competitive this year, but building
Yeah.
for the future and the years after. I mean, they made some other good signings. Jeremy Chin, the
Yes.
safety, they signed him as well. Um, So they've and then yeah, so they've oh, and even their defensive tackle as well. I think it's Adam Butler. I think he's like underrated, and he's been really good. So they're building around him, and yeah, the Gino's gonna be that stopgap for them.
I
Yeah.
think that's the thing. It's that flexibility that if someone wanted to come in and draft above them, who probably isn't looking for a QB and they know they can drop a bit further down in the draft, but pick up some picks in the meantime, it gives them that flexibility to know that they could possibly do that, but still bring in the guy they want. Because as we've obviously talked about, I mean, the way that this draft is going and the way that the QB market is going, there is the possibility that someone like a Shador Sanders could drop, which could benefit the Raiders if they still want him, but could drop out of the high picks for someone who wants a cornerback or someone like that.
Um, no, 100%. But I think my question is more right. Okay, right. We've mentioned Derek Carr. I'm gonna throw Derek Carr's name out there. Um, and do you do what the Saints did and
Hmm.
say, stay in the NFC South for this one? Do you do what the Saints did and say, we've got Derek Carr, it's okay, we can wait and take a Spencer Rattler? Or do you do what the Falcons did and say, yes, we've got a Kirk Cousins in, but we're still going to take a Michael Penix Jr. at number 8? Which do you see as more likely? The whole we've got in our bridge, we can hold off and get what we think is better value for a QB in the draft, or however you see it, we can wait, we can go and get someone in the mid rounds. Or do you say we've got our right now, let's go get that future now?
I still think they go get Sanders if he's available or someone like that. I still think they get someone who they know that they can then sit for a year, or if not, be ready to come in when Gino
Yeah,
messes up.
yeah. Okay. Um, in the other move is Sam Darnold then went to the Seahawks. He's taken over. You thought the Seahawks were going to blow it all up, and then they bring in Sam Darnold. So I'm not quite sure what the plan was with the moving on Geno Smith as a whole. But
I don't think anyone really knew, to be honest. I mean, even as recent as last week, they were saying that Geno Smith is their QB for 2025. But how things change in the space of like 4 or 5 days, because they went from being like, yeah, what happened with how things are. I mean, I just feel sorry for JSN, because
Yeah,
his wide
absolutely.
receiver to his boy, DK Metcalf leaves. Then off goes Gino as well, and he's just like, I think he tweeted about it, being like, "What the fuck? Like, what's happening right now?" Like,
He lost Lockett as well, so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
down
exactly. So he's lost like all
him.
those pieces. Like, I mean, he's got to step up now, but
yeah.
they'll definitely look to get. They'll have to get another wide receiver, because I don't even know who their second wide receiver is right now.
Um,
It'll be uh, what's his face, Bobo, Jake Bobo.
Jake Bobo, mad. So
It could be.
that's, yeah, they're
um,
That's
gonna
how
have to
deep they're
keep
going in that wide
drafting, or
receiver group. Yeah, it's not
yeah.
good.
um. The only other official, well, I say the other official move that happened just before we were on, Justin Fields was named as going to the Jets. He's in Dubai at the moment, celebrating. Um, no one quite knew what was happening. I think um, there's been lots of talk, even as much as a couple of hours going. And listen, when I was finishing up work, I was seeing three different reports of what was going to happen with Justin Fields. The Jets were becoming more and more clear, but it was still talk of him going back to the Steelers, and there was still talk of him going somewhere like the Titans. The Titans were apparently looking at him, and a couple other places were too. But he goes to the Jets. He goes to Aaron Glenn. So another QB that, well, is a QB that Aaron Glenn is used to. He's played him a fair few times in Detroit. Um, a good move for Justin Fields, and I don't think anyone really saw it coming until earlier today.
I think it's a
I
terrible
like
move.
it. I
Oh
like
my!
it only from the fact of, they seem to bolster their line a little bit, like last season. Um, I mean, it's interesting, because I thought it was going to go back to the Steelers. Like, I mean, you got DK Metcalf there now. You still got a great defense. You won games with him to start the season before you turned to Russ. So I thought that was the natural fit. But I
Yeah.
I
don't
also thought the
hate
way
his
that they
link up in New York, especially going back to play with Garrett Wilson, who's got such great connection with as well.
Yeah.
That's the one move that really makes sense from
I
that
thought
point
it
of
was
view anyway.
odd that the Steelers didn't play him because the whole point was them not playing him was they would get the lower pick. Well, they'd have to give the lower comp pick, so you could then keep him with just a fifth. But instead, that he's now gone to the. It doesn't make sense. That element doesn't make sense to me. But I also don't know. Obviously, I know obviously he has the link with Wilson, but I just don't see it being a good move for him to the Jets. And I think it's more. It says more about the Jets than it does him. I don't think it's necessarily he's the problem with that. I think he still has the ability to be a very good quarterback. But I just don't like. I think it's just because I don't like the way the Jets are set up and the way that they've messed it up for years and bringing in the wrong pieces. And now they seem to be going a completely different direction. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right, and I think they've got too many problems, and I think it's just gonna. I think it's gonna make Fields look worse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But hopefully not. Quite like him, so
Um, I do believe the Steelers did want to bring him back, but I also think that could have been a bit of smoke and mirrors, but I'll explain why in a second when I get onto the last bit. So there's just two more names that I want to throw out there. These are not big transfers, these are just a couple of interesting ones, so we can fly through him. Kenny Pickett has gone to the Browns. So you've gone from Deshaun Watson to Jameis Winston to DPJ to Kenny Pickett. What a lucky bunch they are in Cleveland. Um, and then Josh Dobbs, the astronaut himself, is now gone to the Patriots. That's a nice one. I like Josh Dobbs. I think he's just the astronaut is just he just seems to be a nice person to follow around. He was at the 49ers last year as a backup. He will go up and back up for Drake
The
May.
Vikings as well, wasn't
He
he?
was well. That was because he was at the Cardinals. Kirk
Yeah,
Cousins went down, so he went to the Vikings. I think he got injured at the Vikings as well because they started what's it Mullins.
Nick
Uh,
Mullins.
he
Yeah,
also,
yeah,
he also
yeah.
went to the Niners as well, didn't he?
yeah, I will say. Well, he
He
had
was at the
that half a
Niners.
season with the Vikings, then that season ended. Then he went and played backup to Purdy at the Niners for a year, and now he's gonna go play backup. He's a career backup now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think he's one of the better career backups that you can have. He's like a Carson Wentz isn't exactly the greatest QB on the planet, but I think he's a better backup. Andy Dalton is a good backup. Um, is a good. It's good to have in your locker just in case. I put him up with them because they're just a very good career backup.
yeah. And the only other one to mention is Zach Wilson's gone to the Dolphins on a year contract, which I find so bizarre because if Tua gets another concussion, you're relying on Zach Wilson to step up, and I just find that really funny.
Okay.
Before we sort of move on, I just want to ask one question, just because this is one that just popped up. Is Deshaun Watson going to the Panthers, Tom? I just wonder what you sort of felt on that.
Oh, Tarshawn Wharton. Yeah, yeah. It's a shame because I think he had a really good year last year. I was hoping that the Chiefs would be able to re-sign him, but with the money that he got paid. So I'm happy
Yeah,
for him. He's been kind of underrated. He had a really nice pick a few years ago against the Commanders. Like literally, they like I think the commentator was like suction cup hands. Like he's for a big guy, like he had one of his better seasons last season. I think he had 8.5 sacks through regular and postseason. And he was a really good piece across that D line. So the Panthers are getting an absolute dog in Tyke Warren.
Yeah.
54 million, 30 mil guaranteed. So good deal that.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I just have one request before he retires? Can we take Zach Wilson to the Niners, the Rams, the Chargers, somewhere, so we can trade Zach to Cali just once, just once? Tom, I know you appreciated that one. Come on, please. Um, that's all I want. Just
Um,
once in my life. That's kind of it, I think, for the notable trades and free agency pickups at the moment. I'm just going to throw a couple of names out there now. Um, just going to throw the names out there. What you think of some places where these players might see fit. Before I do, just on the Steelers, real quick, they're meant to be getting Aaron Rodgers. Apparently, Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers are really close on a deal. Um, I don't know whether the Steelers were using Aaron Rodgers initially to try and maybe tempt Fields into making a decision because it seemed like Justin Fields
Mm.
wasn't making a decision, or whether. But either way, it looks like Aaron Rodgers is going to the
Aaron
Steelers.
Rodgers to DK Metcalf.
But
That
could
is
what a
nice.
wit like talk about going in different directions. Justin Fields goes from the Steelers to the Jets. Aaron Rodgers goes from the Jets to the Steelers. That's a complete that flip. That's an interesting one.
Very
Um,
true.
but also I think when you mention like Devontae Adams going to the Rams, that's a scary offense. At the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers may be just an awful human being, but and he's not the quarterback he was. But at the end of the day, he's still a multi MVP winning quarterback. He's still a Super Bowl winning quarterback. It's not as if you've got a bum in the building. Him throwing to Kenny Pickett and DK Metcalf, put him in front of a decent O-line that's going to protect him. That might feed some families. Like that's going to feed
Yeah.
What's
some families.
what's the odds on Alan Lazard joining the Steelers then? Surely it's got to be fair.
And some former Packers wide receiver has got to be done. Um,
Yeah.
but
Or
just
or the corpse of Randall Cobb.
Yeah.
Um, there were a few also in this. A lot of names have been cut as well. We've not mentioned them so far just because for this bit. So I'm going to put some notable people who are on the market. I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers out of this because I say he's more than likely going to the Steelers. It seems. Darius Slay from the Philadelphia Eagles. Tyler Lockett from the Seahawks. We've mentioned him today. Joey Bosa, he's been mentioned. Von Miller has been mentioned. Zadarius Smith was cut by the Lions. Grady Jarrett has been cut by the Falcons. Is there any of those players? Do you see them with a particular fit? Do you see? Is there anyone who you're sat there thinking, "Right, you need to go X place"?
Well, Grady Jarrett has signed for
He
someone, hasn't
signed
he?
with someone, didn't he? Was it
Oh,
the
really?
Buccaneers. Yeah, the Buccaneers, I think he's signed
Bucks?
with.
Yeah, with the Bucks.
Also, you stayed in division.
And as well, I saw his name pop up, so I know that he's definitely signed with someone. Well, didn't know, did he? I mean, I'll just look him up. It's easier. I
He
think he
did.
may have.
He signed with
Yeah,
the Bucks.
was the Bucks? Yeah.
Also,
Um.
as soon as he was cut, you realize he's getting taken somewhere.
The Vikings are signing Ryan Kelly to a
Oh no.
2-year deal.
Oh no. Sorry. Grady Jarrett's gone to the Bears.
The Bears, even yeah, it's the Bears. That
Three,
was it.
3 year,
Uh,
43.5 million with the Bears.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah.
who already have what Montez Sweat as well along
Yeah,
that P line. So yeah, they're
yeah.
looking to wreak havoc next year.
Assholes.
Yeah. Zadarius Smith will be an interesting one because I know obviously he came
He's
in
going
for
somewhere in the AFC North because that's just where he lives.
the um
Somewhere in that general area.
Yeah, so he's either going to re-sign with the Vikings, the Packers, maybe back to the Lions. Who knows?
I, I'd
joins
love
the
to have him
Bears
back at
and
the Lions.
The
add him
Bears
into
just joins the Bears out
choose
of just yeah, just so he can
completely
do the whole like the
set.
whole
Yeah.
all four teams played for them. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll just do it like Erie Tor. The Bills are on there at
Yeah.
some point.
Yeah.
Um, but that like Zadarius Smith, it was a sad one to see him go. I really was looking forward to seeing him and Hutch play alongside each other next year. They seemed to
Yeah.
get on really well. He seemed to really good for the locker room. I was just really sad about it. And I didn't know he'd gone until I saw a post. I was on Instagram and I follow him on Insta, and he just put up his post saying "Thank you, Detroit," and I'm like, "Do you mean thank? Oh fuck!" Uh,
I, I
that's
I think I think Von Miller may retire. He may pick up somewhere, but he's like 90 or something, isn't he? Seems to be
yeah,
around for years.
yeah.
Um,
90.
Obviously, Tyler Lockett's an interesting one because I genuinely thought he was going to retire at the Seahawks. He's a legend for them. Where I don't know where I can see him. Maybe somewhere like the Raiders. Add a piece in at the Raiders. That could be a good move for him.
Yeah. You want to go somewhere where you just have a vet. You just put your vet
Yeah,
stamp on
like what
things.
Adam Thielen did with the Panthers. It's just got to go somewhere where he's just gonna get a bit of a bag and slowly end his career.
And you were talking, Fletch, you were talking about those guys that got released. What's an ideal fit? How about pairing up the Bosa brothers for the 49ers?
That was a rumor, hasn't it? It's recently been.
Yeah. Well, one of the Joey Bosa's been linked. He's kind of been linked with the Lions. A lot of the Lions beat reporters jumped right on it straight away. A lot of Lions fans jumped on it straight away, and I went in kind of with the whole, no, 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 we're not having this. We've got PTSD from last season and injuries. Out of the last 3 seasons, 51 possible games he's played. It's 28.
Yeah.
Um, and he started 18. It's just for he'll take you'll incur a 25 mil cap hit for him for the injury for the fact that he's barely playing half the games at the moment over the last 3 years.
Why do you think the Chargers released him? Like, I mean, they were never going to pay him the 24 million he was going to be against the cap anyway. And then he's been injury prone the last like 3 seasons, as you just noted. So, like, if I'm a team and I'm going to sign him, I'm not signing him to loads of guaranteed money, unless,
I,
well,
I see him getting like a year contract, and just if you can prove to stay fit, then great, we'll
Or
sign you on another contract. But
yeah, yeah.
or you take him on under the proviso that he will restructure his contract for push. How long has he got left on his contract? Is it 2 years?
I believe it was another, yeah, 2 seasons because I think he signed the extension 2 seasons ago.
Yeah. So, um, you can put him on restructure his contract to say like if you can stay on the field for 11 games this season, you'll get some of that. You'll get the money, but you'll get it in incentives rather than outright cash and guaranteed money. I think there's ways you can do it. You can maybe sign into a quick little extension and push some of that money down the road with the potential for an out next year or an out the year after, and just say like if you can stay on the field, then we'll keep you on and you'll get paid some good money. If not, then it's low risk.
he's due to hit the free agency in 2026.
So
So
two
he's got
seasons, no one.
one season, but
Yeah,
he's guaranteed 15 million this year.
right.
So if I was, I mean, to be fair, if I was anyone, I'd basically be taking on that contract of, yeah, okay, you guaranteed 15 million this year, but we ain't giving you any more money than that until you can prove that you you can stay on the field.
Yeah. Also, I just under the impression that he was under a slightly longer contract, so I would have just said restructure that deal, push some of that money back, and say if you can stay healthy, congratulations, you get a load of money next year. If you can't, like, bye, out the door.
So yeah,
Well, he's been notorious about not restructuring contracts anyway. Like that's why last off season
Well,
the what do you call them, the Chargers, they had to restructure Khalil Mack's deal because Joey Bosa wouldn't restructure his.
well, here's the thing: when you spend 3 years not being able to stay on the field, I think you lose some of your. Like, don't get me wrong, on his day, he's a brilliant player. He makes any roster he goes to on his day when he's healthy, he makes that roster better.
Yes.
I'm not doubting that in any way, shape, or form. That is still absolute quality, but for me, it is just a case of like when you can't stay on the field for 3 years, you lose some of you don't have the same standing in the negotiation table you might have. You, you go somewhere where we spoke about going place where you can be a veteran presence for what Von Miller does. Go somewhere where you can go get a bit of money, but you're not going to do anything. If you want to be somewhere competitive, you're gonna have to stand down a little bit and say, right, okay, I'll do what I kind of need to do to make it work. And
yeah,
are you willing to prove yourself?
Yeah.
Um, Tyler Lockett. Is there any way you'd like to see Tyler Lockett go?
Raiders.
Nowhere.
I think he seems like the suitable fit with just Pete Carroll just filling out his offense with former Seahawks players. He's already got Geno. Throw in Tyler Lockett.
Do you know
Again,
who
that
I think
Bring
could be
Marshawn Lynch
a
back.
good pick for him is is the Panthers having a veteran wide receiver. Obviously, they got Adam Thielen, but he's
Yeah.
getting on a bit. Like if they could bring in Tyler Lockett for Bryce
Hmm.
Young, that would make sense.
Yeah.
he's still a great deep ball threat, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's got great hands. He barely drops the ball.
Yeah.
Oh, talking of wide receivers, the Giants have just re-signed Darius Slayton to a 3-year, 36 million deal.
Good player, man.
Um, Finally, in my list of available players, Darius Slay, Super Bowl winner. I have something I want to put forward. I want to see him back in Detroit. I really want to see him back in Detroit. I've
Hasn't
made
he
no
re-signed
qualms.
somewhere else?
I've not seen that he's re-signed somewhere else.
I
Um,
thought he'd signed somewhere else. I thought he was signing like a 2-year deal somewhere.
I'll look real quick. Yeah, he's at the
potent.
Steelers.
To the
Um,
Steelers.
well, it
The
hasn't
Steelers
been.
agreed the contract after a Eagles Super Bowl win for Darius Slay.
Well, sporting news, motorcycle. Well, it's in motorcycle sports. I'm not quoting them on here. It's genuine NFL news. Um, it does seem to be that it's not quite done yet, and there's still things. If he does go to the Steelers, fair enough. If not, I really want to see him in Detroit. Really want to see him in Detroit. He
Well,
was on.
that's what he said as well. But I
It was
love
he
it.
was on the St. Brown Brothers podcast, but like I've never made any qualms. When I first started watching the NFL, it was his rookie season. I lived
Mm.
for. I worked one of like my first proper jobs. It was like full time and whatnot. We had there's like a trampoline park, and we had a couple of American footballs in that me and my mate would bring in. And when it was dead quiet, we'd launch it to people, and we'd be doing drills. And I went in as cornerback, and if I could bat away a pass, I'd be doing the Darius Slay finger wag and walking around thinking I'm slick. Just because I absolutely love the guy. It was really sad to see the way it ended in Detroit, and I feel like he deserves a bit of a redemption tour. But if he goes to the Steelers, fair enough. Like it is what it is. It's not something I'm going to hold like my whole off season on. If we don't get Slay, I'm going to be devastated. But it would be really nice to see him back.
I do find it funny though because since the Eagles moved on from him, released him, he's been bashing the Eagles for the last like 2 weeks
Yeah,
on
yeah.
various podcasts. Like he didn't put Jalen Hurts in the like elite QB tier. He threw some shade at CJ Gardner-Johnson. Like he threw some shade elsewhere. So he's clearly, not happy with the way that things went down. So as things ended it for the Eagles, because he was a great servant for the Eagles as well, going from Detroit to the Eagles. Like I felt like the natural fit was going back to Detroit and then retiring in Detroit because that's where he spent the majority of his
Hmm.
career and had a lot of his success. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler, 4-time Pro Bowler, I think. And I think 3 of those are in Detroit. I think he had
Uh,
one maybe in Philly, but
six
he's
times, 6 times Pro Bowler,
6-time Pro Bowler, and 4 of those were in Detroit, right?
4 in Detroit.
Yeah,
Um, no, 3 in Detroit.
3 in Detroit.
3 at the Eagles.
Yeah, so he's had really good career. I just don't get going to the Steelers to be honest, because I mean I understand it for the Steelers because they want veteran presence. It's just like when they had Patrick Peterson, when they had him at the back. But yeah, it's a shame because I would have liked to see him back in Detroit too.
Talking of veterans, I know we're running on a lot of time in that, but Commanders are hosting wide receiver Michael Gallup on a visit tomorrow. The same
Yeah,
Michael
he's
Gallup
he's
who
making an
retired.
NFL comeback because he retired last season, but then he's deciding that he's wanted to come back.
Yeah.
Mm, it's an interesting one.
I mean, a deal that will make sense for the Cowboys because, I read something today that they haven't given over 6 million guaranteed to a free agent since 2015, and they gave that to Greg Hardy, who is now, out of the NFL and everything. Um, would be to go after their former wide receiver, Amari Cooper. Like, I mean, that seems to make a lot of sense, to be honest. bring it back to Dallas.
Right. On that note, I do apologize. Like, there's so much to talk about today. There's so many big moves happening. It won't necessarily get much easier over the next couple of days, but hopefully we can power through it a bit better next week. But
There might be less to talk about in
yeah,
terms of being able to condense it a bit more rather than having
yeah.
constant news.
It is one of those though. Like during day one, everything, a lot's been building. Everything kind of happens at once. We'll have a couple of days where some chaos, the big ones have happened, or at least we've spoken about them, because the trades are already there, or the things are already there.
Wait, give me just one more. Let me just say just one quickly, just because I didn't get to
Go
say
for
it
it.
when we said the defense was Nick Bolton re-signing for the Chiefs on a 3-year, $45 million dollar contract. I was really pleased to see that.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a big.
he's a really good middle linebacker. Obviously, he's not Fred Warner, but you know he's one of the better middle linebackers in the NFL. And he's still young as well. He's still only 24. Obviously, he had that pick six in the, or not the pick six, but Jalen Hurts fumbled the ball, he picks it up, runs in for a touchdown
Yeah,
in the Super
hoop
Bowl,
and score.
big momentum shifter, and he's a great player. So I was
Yeah.
really happy to see him re-sign with the Chiefs.
Yeah. Well, just quickly on that note, the Lions signed Derek Barnes to a very good deal. So it looks like the linebackers are getting paid and smart to the Chiefs, and the Lions also got in there about the same time Nick Bolton did, got ahead of the curve, paid them
Yep,
early. Bengals, listen, this this works, get in there early. But yeah, it's linebackers are getting a bit of a payday this year, and I really like to see it. A tremendously undervalued position on the defense, but so important.
100%.
So yeah, but like I say there's so much going. It's all happening right now. It'll calm down over the next couple of days. Any trades that are even potential, we spoke about them, we know about them. Hopefully next week will be a little bit better and we can wrap it up. It's just all happening. And while we're on here, it's also all happening. If you are still with us, we greatly appreciate it. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you. Um, I can't believe that 1 week ago the Lions have already wrapped up the number one seed in the NFC. It's incredible. The Chiefs are still in play for the number one overall pick. And Sam, I can't believe Sean McVay did that to our fan the other day. That was disgusting. Um, no. Appreciate you sticking with us, and we'll see you next week for hope just a little bit more free agency, trades, new league year, and draft stuff. Hurdle that free agency.
Heard of
Hurdle that
that contract?
hurdle that contract.